Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back.
All right, all you positive heads, welcome one and all. Thank you so much for joining me on this magical today. And today, you're not just joining me, you're joining me and the very lovely Aaron Gannon, who I am so excited has showed up at my house today. So thank you for coming, Aaron, and thank you for joining me on the show today.
It's good to be in the magical wardrobe recording studio with you.
I love that you just called it that. Because we're in my closet, because that's where I record, because it is the quietest place in the new house that I live in. And I love that Aaron surprised me today. He knows that he is welcome at my doorstep at any given moment, at any hour, on any day. And so I love to see his face. So
I can't pass up the opportunity for flow with my divine sister.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Yeah. So on the way here, Aaron brought up a concept that I thought, you know what, this would be so great to talk about on the show. So Aaron, take it from here. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I think it was about quantum leaps in healing, and through the subconscious, through the higher self, and just through something as simple as guided meditation, like what is something that you do, or even with breath, which is what my focus is.
Yeah, because it's not just a specific way or a specific technique to get to this place, because this is a place that we all have within ourselves, and it's actually really easy to access.
Really easy.
And we just don't understand that.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I think we were saying before we were jumping on the mics that the word is surrender. That is the key word. Surrender and trust. Because when we're healing, we want to break through. But breaking through isn't necessarily breaking through as much as it's creating space or surrender, so that we can go deeper into these places in the body where the subconscious actually nestles thoughts and unprocessed emotions, or whatever the modality is. It's right there for us as long as we can just get out of our way. So maybe we'll be able to talk about a few techniques, but then what is the way people can get out of their way.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about the breath with what you do, because there's not really a super, well, maybe there has become an expectation surrounding breath work. But if you just think, I'm going to go into this place and I'm going to settle down and I'm going to relax and I'm going to breathe, and you don't have any expectations about that.
About what's going to happen.
Or how it's going to be, or how it's going to feel, or, what you're going to get out of it.
Right.
And you just go into this breath experience. It is that simple to be in connection with this deep inner aspect of ourselves, each and every one of ourselves.
Right. To be connected and bear witness to your gates, right? Like the things that, don't serve you anymore.
Yeah.
And the gifts, your higher self, right? And a lot of times we have a preconceived notion. I mean, I feel for you, Erica, because your work is so magical
Yeah.
and it's been talked about so much.
Yeah.
And so people have this idea
Yeah.
and then they come into the session. And I get that too. You know, I actually just finished a retreat this last weekend and there was a person there and she's brilliant and she can access her higher self and then integrate it really well. But when she doesn't go there, it's like, what did I do wrong? Why didn't it happen?
Oh.
And how do I avoid going through that? And how do I get the thing I think that I need? And a lot of times that's not how it works.
Not at all.
You at least in the breath work, every session is different.
Yes.
And that's kind of part of the process of surrender is accepting that every session is going to be different and that the magic is going to be there in that different session.
Yeah.
No matter what you think that is.
Yes.
It's there.
Yeah.
So
Be open to all of the possibilities.
Right.
From the subtle to the magnificent. Because I think we often forget the importance of the subtle because we often kind of crave this magnificent experience. We want to feel this like energetic high. So, enter plant medicine because that's where you get to feel this deep connection and that high at the same time. So, yes, that's very magnificent. Oftentimes we are left with those experiences with a lot of questions. We learn a lot, but then we also still have a whole lot of questions.
Right.
Whereas when we can look into those subtle aspects, those subtle moments, and just sit with them quietly, that is so incredibly powerful. And I think a lot of us forget that.
Yeah, and it makes sense. You know, we're Westerners, so we're like the tip of the spear. We're the fire. And there is less of a feminine yin, just surrender, receive that the East has more integrated in their just way of being. And yeah, so it's definitely a game of dropping in to your parasympathetic nervous system. And that can kind of feel uncomfortable at first just to be, right? And that's why a lot of people don't like sitting meditation. And I get it. And
those people need to do it twice.
Right. Yeah.
Double time for you.
Right. Yeah. Double
Triple
time.
time even.
Yeah. And the breath work, I was trained in a form of breath work called transformational breath. And it's a wonderful modality, and it leans heavily on the open mouth breath, which is that, ecstatic experience, right? And it's where a lot of emotions move and a lot of ecstatic experiences happen. But with golden breathwork, which is the breathwork that I share, that incorporates the gentle nose breath. And this is the only way that we can consciously enter into that space of surrender, of the peace, where we get the self-healing benefits of our self-healing nervous system, the parasympathetic. And then we're open to all of the other ones without going into that fight or flight, I've got to get the ecstatic experience.
Yeah.
And then we just start creating more stress for ourselves, and we're actually taking 2 steps backward, not forward.
Yeah, because the key really is the stillness, the quietness, the stillness of the mind, and just being. I tell you what, if I hear that over and over and over and over again, that's all I hear every day. Honestly, like every single person's higher self, that is something that is beaten in every time. So important, because there is no way, I'm just going to say it like this, there is no way you are going to clearly hear your inner guidance, your higher self, your subconscious, whatever you want to call it, if your mind is constantly chattering and overthinking. There's no way.
Right.
Because it's louder than that subtle, quiet, whispering little voice that you have to trust.
Right.
And learn to discern between these voices in your head, which is which. Because normally that one that is overthinking, trying to control everything, analyzing, whatever you want to call it, doubting, that one's really loud, really, really loud. It's also the dumb one. So what we find ourselves doing in daily life is listening to that not so intelligent aspect of ourselves.
And
It's very interesting. We do this to
Yep.
ourselves, just like
Yep.
I want to make this point so much because just as much as we're doing this to ourselves on a daily basis, we can turn to the other side of the coin and say, yeah, just as powerful I am at doing that to myself, I can tap in. I can go into this subtle nose breath, right? I can do this, just concentrate on my breath, this subtle thing, and I can tap into myself. And I can do this for myself. And I can do this every single day for myself because I'm incredibly powerful.
The doorway isn't through the brain. It's not through the
Right.
left and right hemispheres. The doorway is through the heart.
Mm-hmm.
There's not two sides to your heart.
Right.
There are two sides to the brain.
Yeah.
And that left brain, the comparing, the analytical, I'm going to measure this and get my self-concept around it, that's not the heart. The heart is all-seeing. It is in its totality. It's the doorway to the non-dual state of just pure perception.
Yeah.
And that's really where we bring our feeling awareness to.
Yep.
In Qigong, you say, where awareness goes, Qi flows.
Yeah.
So literally, you can bring your feeling awareness, descend it into the heart, as our friend Isa likes to say, and I say it now all the time. Descend into the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you sometimes see people put their hands together and then dip their head. Like, that is just a way to bring more feeling awareness to the heart center region, which is from a nervous system perspective, it's the center of the dorsal vagal complex. And it's that dorsal vagal complex is where we tend to store the tension, the stress, the I'm not safe. What is the breath, though, that when you're out in nature, what is the breath pattern that indicates I am safe? Is it, or is it,
Yeah. Right.
it's gentle.
Yeah.
That is the language. I heard someone I work with, we were talking about this language of breath. And the language of gentle breath is the language of I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are healing from trauma, right, or something that has happened that is our nervous system wasn't expecting, right, the ground level of presence that we have to tune into or just ask ourselves is, am I safe?
Yeah.
Do I feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
And that breath pattern of an in through the nose and out through the nose, also just starting with through the mouth where you just give a sigh. That is a starting point. But certainly when you're extending your exhale, and it's especially through the nose, and you bring the feeling awareness to the back of your heart center and spine, just try breathing. I think the last time I was on with you, I asked people to just try breathing through the back of their heart, right? Like you can immediately maybe start to feel the presence softening there and opening into that region of your body, which is going to help your nervous system start to clock more time in the parasympathetic, not the cortisol-inducing sympathetic nervous system.
Before we continue on with today's episode, for those of you interested in getting more fantastic fungi in your life, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about a friend of mine's brand new company, The Great Mother. Recently, I have been drinking The Great Mother's superfood mushroom coffee alternative called Ritual, as well as regularly taking their awesome Ally microdoses, and I am truly loving both. As you probably know, these days, many of the world's highest achievers and performers swear by microdosing. The problem is it can still be difficult to get a hold of magic mushrooms. That's why when my friend reached out, who lives in an area and country where legalization is not a problem like it was in the past, and said he'd be willing to offer microdoses to my listeners, I wanted to pass the word along. Ally microdoses are 100% organic. And in addition to a small amount of the magic active ingredient, they also contain functional mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and other brain boosters like bacopa. Ally is essentially a full spectrum nootropic. And of course, the coffee alternative Ritual doesn't contain magic mushrooms, but it has an array of the best organic functional mushrooms in the world. And with functional mushrooms, it's really important to get them from the highest integrity sources. And whereas some other highly popular mushroom coffee alternatives on the market only contain a few varieties of functional mushrooms in their actual ingredients, Ritual has 7. Not only does it contain more types, it also contains 3 to 4 times the amount that the big brands have in each serving, and it tastes amazing. I actually like to have it on its own as well as mixing it into my coffee sometimes as well. However, since this is definitely a unique offering, there are a few steps. First, just reach out and request to follow the private page, The Great Mother on Instagram. Once you've been accepted to follow, just message what you're interested in getting and someone will get back.
I love what you just said there about clocking more time.
It's like a workout.
Yes.
Like if you want to build muscle, you need to do
Yep.
a number of reps, right? So same thing with parasympathetic nervous system, except there's one other thing, and that is it's not just doing it right like a machine, it's heart resonance. You have to wake up the heart.
Yeah.
You have to wake up. You have to wake up the inner smile. You have to let the higher self descend into you. And how do we do that? Well, that's up to you. And I think that's where you and I, we kind of commiserate sometimes when we're like, oh, I just had this client and they want me to tell them how to do it, or they want me to, walk them through every step of the way. And it's a balance. Like we need to be nurturing as facilitators. And we also want to let the chick push through the eggshell on its own so it can build the strength it needs to be able to fly by that strength that they built by breaking through the eggshell on their own.
Yeah.
And so in this case, it's like empowering the client to have that permission to decide what is that heart resonant feeling of connecting with the higher self on their own, not being told that. That's, and then I will say a side note is sometimes we do give affirmations to help people connect to their higher self, right? Like we're not going to let them go off the deep end. We want them to, especially, when they have gone open and deep, we want them to remember that they are, really, it is our birthright as some people say we're children of the light. And our natural state is to be in bliss. And therefore we are guiding people to help remember that is a wise choice as facilitators. And but yeah, do we hold their hand every step of the way? And do you, as you're listening to this, I'm speaking to the audience right now, do you want someone to tell you who your true self, your true higher self is? Isn't that like more sacred and more personal than anyone could tell you what it is?
Right. No, that's something that you have to learn on your own. And oftentimes, though, we just get so caught up thinking that we don't have that access. We're blocked for some reason, and that we need to have someone else do it for us or tell it to us. But it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't ever work out that way, where you have to learn how to do it on your own. And here's the thing. You already have the answers. You know it all. If you're going to a psychic or to someone to help you with an answer, a path, you know which direction that is because your heart knows. And so getting into that heart center is always the advice. How do I know? Follow your heart is the advice.
Follow your heart.
It's that simple. If your heart wants to do it, then do that. Do that. If your head is analyzing it and bouncing it back and forth, just ignore that. Ignore that. That's not your heart.
Right.
That's an easy differential to make between head and heart because you can actually feel it in your body. What does love feel like? What does fear feel like? What does excitement feel like? What does happiness and joy feel like? What does anger feel like? We feel these things in our body.
Yeah. We're not. we are not disembodied beings yet, and we don't just need logos or thought to exist. We need to actually bring in the presence into the body, and I think that's why breath work has become so popular, because it does bring you back into your body. Like, you do not have to think about how do I get there? How do I, enter into that state of presence? Because you really have no choice but
Yeah,
to
you just do it because you're breathing.
You have to do it.
And you just get there.
And it brings you really into your lower belly, which is a place where most people don't even like to breathe, and where people have tons of tension, because that's the water region of the body. And that's where the water that is programmed with our I'm not worthy thoughts, or I'm not getting the love that mom and dad were supposed to give me from 40 years ago when you were that age, but it's still with you. It all stores in the body, and a lot of times in that region, in the lower belly, where people can breathe and embody in themselves more, the belly and the heart.
Here's another interesting thing about what you just said is that, you have to breathe. And as you're going through this, it just naturally happens that you're in contact with this aspect of yourself, this empowering, incredibly powerful inner being, higher self aspect of yourself. In my work, it's the same exact thing. Because if I can keep someone in the scene, in the pictures, telling me about it long enough for them to not be thinking about what's going on, they inevitably end up in this deep space where all I need to do is ask them a question and, oh, look, there it is. Oh, look, there it is. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to try anything. They didn't have to try. As a matter of fact, if they try, they don't, because you can't try to do this. You just have to surrender, like you said in the beginning, and allow the flow, and just allow yourself to just go with it.
And almost
you wind up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and almost treat the work like a grain of salt. Don't pour your whole being self-worth into it. The more it can just feel subconscious, it can just feel intuitive, I should say. Did I ever tell you the story of someone I work with, and he is hired by the police department sometimes to find missing people, and he's a psychic, and he actually, his main work is healing work. He helps people, but in any case, the times that he would find the missing people, he says it was when he felt like he was making it up.
Always.
So he would enter into this surrendered state, right, of presence, led by gentle breath, going deeper, and not in an efforted way, just in I'm going to let my higher self guide me, right? That was when he had the most success, was when it felt like he was making it up, and then, we found the person.
Yeah.
So that is just, I don't know, another
Well, let me tell you what about that. I'll tell you a little
Let
story
go.
about making it up. This is something I talk to my clients about each and every time we do a session, that it is most likely going to feel like you're making it up. And that's okay. That's normal. Go ahead and do that. Because you're not making it up. Because your intuition and your imagination come from the same place. So it feels the same. It's really tough to discern. So now you just heard from Aaron telling you that a very good psychic and someone who does healing work is even saying, wow, I feel like I'm making this up. Every psychic that I know feels that way, and then they surrender to it. All right, feels like I'm making up. That's okay. I don't know what this is. I don't need to know what it is, but I'm going to tell you the picture that's in my head. And each and every time, it is correct. So we got to get out of our own way. And let me tell you what, I had a client.
There is a finger that is wagging right now, and I feel it.
Well, let me tell you
I
what,
feel
because this is the way that we get in our way
Mhm.
the most, by the overthinking. So I had this really lovely client the other day, and this client went in to the scene and was seeing these pictures. but then was fighting with that and thinking that they were making it up. I went through this for a good maybe 45 minutes to an hour where I had to just ultimately be like, you know what, just go ahead and make it up then. Just go ahead and listen, this person was in a really good scene, but could not get over the fact that it felt like they were making it up. So finally, I just, after telling them over and over and over and over again to just do that, they finally did. They finally did. And you know what happened? We got there. We got there. Of course we did. Because it's that simple.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
And two things I wanted to say. One is about creativity and joy. Like, we all have these prescriptions for ourselves about how we need to heal, but also what's the joy practice? And what are you using that intuition to water the seeds of your inspiration and your intuition, right? And your creativity, and see where that takes you. Because it usually is a divine particle of thought that's not yours, that you are receiving, because humans are intergalactic tuning forks, essentially. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is that in the beginning, it is helpful to give the client that context of it. It may feel like you're just making it up. I also want to distinguish that from other states where the client, or just someone that is breathing or meditating, they are so out of their way that there isn't even that thought that they're making it up.
Right.
Meaning that's a very different world that we're talking about, where it is, you are a channel, and therefore you will not feel like you're making it up.
No, once
in
you
fact,
get
it will
past
become
that,
so clear that it is your inner divine connection.
Yeah,
so
you know how it feels. You recognize it. It's like, oh yeah,
it does. There is a distinction there, just so that people don't think that we're just advocating going into la la land, because really, when you do surrender, when you do trust, and when you stay connected in your heart, through whatever it is, if it is quantum healing work like what you do, or golden breath work, or so many, even plant medicine journeys, or deep vipassana, or even kriya, that work requires us to let go, and then we get to witness the higher self, and we get to witness also the things that maybe we need to let go of.
Yeah.
And that's good too. Stay present with it. Loving awareness is just being present like a mother is to the child, whether the child is acting like an angel or a demon, right? It's that loving awareness that a mother holds. We have to learn how to hold that for ourselves, to witness whatever comes up. And then that is going to be the antidote. Light is the best disinfectant. And then we can move into our divine birthright, which is bliss, which is imagination, inspiration, intuition, and being the creator beings that we are.
Yeah. So. Well said. Well said. I think we're going to end it on that note. That was really good.
Yum.
Thank you so much.
Always beautiful with you, Erica.
Yeah. And
breathe and believe.
Well, we love you guys so much. Aaron, thank you again. We're going to leave you with this song for today by Drum Spider called Masked Dance. Until next time, love you all.